All right, let's zoom in on a single day. January 24th, 2026. Now, why this day? Because it's a perfect snapshot of our world under incredible strain, with so many critical things happening all at the same time.
And wow, this headline really says it all, doesn't it? It just perfectly captures the mood of that day. You've got two huge things going on, a major military intervention, and at the same time, a series of devastating natural disasters. So let's dig into what was really going on behind this. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the story that was absolutely dominating the headlines. A really traumatic military intervention by the US happening right in South America. The flashpoint? Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. And we're not talking about a diplomatic back and forth here. This was direct military action. US airstrikes were hitting the city, and that just sent tensions soaring across the whole region, like instantly. And this whole thing had an official name, Operation Southern Spear. Now that's important. When you give an operation a formal name like that, it tells you this wasn't just some spontaneous skirmish. No, this was a planned, coordinated military effort. So you might be wondering, how exactly did this all go down? Well, reports from the ground basically boiled it down to two key steps. First, the airstrikes hit Caracas, and then, almost immediately after, came the big consequence: the capture of Venezuela's former president, Nicolas Maduro. Okay, so let's shift focus a bit. Beyond the military strategy and the code names, what were the immediate and, well, tragic consequences for the people on the ground? And that brings us to this number, 100. That was the reported human cost right off the bat. So you've got the strategic objectives, the code name, but the initial reports coming out of Caracas were just grim. At least 100 people were reported killed in those strikes. And right in the middle of all that chaos and tragedy, the main political goal of the operation was actually met. It all came down to the fate of Nicolas Maduro. He was captured by U.S. forces, put on a plane, and flown straight to New York, where he was set to face federal charges for drug and weapons trafficking. I mean, what a stunning and sudden end to his time in power. But here's the thing, this intervention in Venezuela wasn't happening in some kind of bubble. And this is where the story of this one day gets even more complicated. Because at the very same time, it felt like the entire planet was in an uproar. Just take a look at this. It really gives you a sense of how stretched thin global attention and resources must have been. So while everyone's focused on Caracas, what else is going on? Well, there's a huge landslide in Indonesia with nearly 100 people dead or missing. At the same time, on totally different sides of the Pacific Ocean, you've got both New Zealand and parts of the US declaring states of emergency because of terrible winter storms and floods. You see, these aren't just separate random events. They're all part of this much bigger picture of a world under pressure. So what we're looking at are two totally different kinds of crises hitting all at once. On one hand, you've got this deliberate, man-made geopolitical action with very specific political goals. And on the other hand, you have the completely unpredictable, chaotic power of nature just wreaking havoc on several continents. And for any world leader, the real challenge is, how do you possibly respond to both at the same time? Which, of course, brings us to the big question. What happens next? With the world just reeling from all this, from military conflict and natural disasters, how were global leaders even supposed to respond? Well, here's the kicker. As all of this was unfolding, many of the world's most powerful people, politicians, business leaders, you name it, they were all gathered together for the World Economic Forum. So they're literally meeting to talk about the world's biggest problems at the exact moment those problems are blowing up in real time all over the globe. And really, that just leaves us with this one huge question. The events of this single day show us a world under this incredible, multi-layered pressure. So when you're facing political conflict, human tragedy, and natural disasters all hitting at the same time, what's the playbook? What's the path forward? In a world where it feels like crises are just piling on top of each other, where does leadership even start?